So many people have been speaking about the climate crisis. So many things have been put on paper, but the real question is, why is it that we're still not acting at the scale and speed that is necessary?
The extreme weather events that the scientists have long connected to the climate crisis are becoming far more frequent and far more destructive.
For 150 years, we built up a world based on the assumption that we can exploit the planet for free, and it translates to very dramatic impacts happening right as we speak.
The climate crisis is a threat multiplier, which means it exacerbates existing inequities in our society. The impacts are felt most deeply by Black, Indigenous, and communities of color.
We're living through an explosion of inequality. We need to remember we're on the same planet, and this is the planet that we need to make sustainable for the whole of humanity.
Climate change is impacting food security as well as political stability in many nations around the world. 5 years ago, there were 80 million people marching towards starvation. That number jumped to 135 million. What caused the jump? It was man-made conflict, like in Ukraine, compounded with climate shocks.
No one is as vulnerable to climate change as farmers are. If you talk transformation, the first thing they want to know is, what must I do on my farm?
We know that this transition will require a fast adoption of a lot of new technologies. And the question today is how to find the appropriate way to finance this technology.
To put a number around it, it's an extra $2.5 to $3 trillion a year of additional finance that we have to find in order to get those emissions down.
Financial institutions have a lot of roles to play to bring the advice and provide the financing to make these transitions happen.
Younger generations are demanding a sense of purpose. They want to look at companies and say, I am investing with you all for this reason.
With the upcoming 2 COPs taking place in Africa and the Middle East, we have this tremendous opportunity to put emerging markets at the forefront of our collective response to climate change.
For international trade has to be part of the solution. How do we all get together to talk about a global carbon price that can guide us and help us to decarbonize the world?
The solutions are there. What we need is governments to regulate, to invest, and we need business to act with values.
History will look at us, people, politicians, corporate leaders. These times requires not only solutions but speed.
There is nowhere else to look than the mirror. We are the ones that need to do this.
Hello and welcome to Scaling Innovation for People and Planet. I'm John Dutton, head of UpLink, joining you from the World Economic Forum's Sustainable Development Impact meetings here in New York City. What innovations do we need to solve some of the world's biggest challenges like water security, climate change, and poor access to healthcare and education? What ingredients are needed to help these innovations grow and have maximum impact for people and planet? And how do we create the right business and investment environment for them to flourish? Since its launch in early 2020, UpLink, the World Economic Forum's open innovation platform, founded in partnership with Salesforce and Deloitte, has been sourcing solutions to these questions, mobilizing entrepreneurs, investors, partners, and experts to create an innovation ecosystem and to accelerate the startups that are making the global goals a reality. Over the course of the next 45 minutes, we'll talk about some of these challenges in more detail and meet some of the entrepreneurs, investors, business leaders, and policymakers who are finding new ways to tackle those challenges head-on. We'll also launch UpLink's latest innovation endeavor, the Global Freshwater Challenge, and talk about why getting the right funds in place to help purpose-driven entrepreneurs is so vital to achieving the SDGs. So let's get started. First of all, we want to talk about fresh water and the need to protect and conserve the world's freshwater ecosystems. Freshwater ecosystems are vital to life on our planet, but they are under threat from climate change and growing urban populations. If we continue using freshwater at our current pace, we will run out of safe drinking water. Already today, 4 billion people experience severe water scarcity every year. There is an urgent need for innovation to tackle this issue, and that is why UpLink, in partnership with HCL, is launching the Global Freshwater Challenge, a call for sustainable solutions that are restoring water quality and making our supplies of freshwater more resilient. Joining me here in the studio to talk more about this new challenge is Sundar Mahalingam, the Chief Strategy Officer of HCL. And alongside him, I'm pleased to welcome Henk Ovink, Special Envoy for International Water Affairs for the Dutch government. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for calling me.
Yeah, great to be here. Look forward.
So listen, let me start with you, Sundar. And really as the partner and stimulus for this Global Freshwater Challenge, we wanted to understand a little bit, why is water insecurity so important for HCL?
Thanks. So firstly, HCL as an organization is quite involved in social systems and trying to improve the life of people, particularly in the area we come from, India in a sense. And so we have done a fair amount of work on water in trying to create some nature-based solutions, some technology-based solutions to sort of help the water agenda. But we somehow felt that that was not enough, because while in other areas there seems to be a fair amount of what I call interest and enthusiasm, we sort of felt that the water area, particularly the technology part, needed more impetus. And that's why we felt that this is an area we should look at. And the larger issue here to my mind is also, it's not just about India. While India is an important area, and honestly we have, I think, only 4% of the water and about 20-25% of the population, so it's a big issue for us. But I think it's beyond that. It's a global point, a global issue, and we felt that the solutions for this need to come from a global perspective. And the feeling was, at least in our heads, that innovation is where we need to look at. I think the technologies exist, but how do you bring the technologies together? How do you direct them towards the water agenda is something we felt that we should work on, and we felt that it's best to work with you, with the WEF, with UpLink, to sort of make this happen. So that's why the interest in water.
And I think this has been exciting for us because at the same time, Henk, as you know, the World Economic Forum has had a big focus on water. Yeah. There's an upcoming UN Water Summit coming next year. And I guess we wanted to come to you. You've been appointed with this pretty unique position as the Special Envoy for International Water Affairs. And we can see that this is a complex issue. Yeah. So for you, what are some of the key factors driving that global water insecurity that we're seeing?
And thanks for having us here. It's great to be with you here also to discuss the opportunities, which is what the most aim is when we think about innovation. In my role as Special Envoy, it's exactly that. You could almost say finding the water in other sectors. There's the water sector that, of course, helps provide solutions and innovations, but it's the other sectors where you make the difference in these connections. And if we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the global agenda for the next 8 years now and beyond, you can find water in, of course, health and agriculture and energy and climate, but also in cities and in equality and education. If you look closely, water underpins all of these goals, but also undermines reaching them. This is also the main reason why in 2014 the Dutch government reached out and we had this conversation on how can we put water higher on the agenda politically to make ministers of finance and political leaders understand the importance for security writ large, but also work with private sector finance across the world to really identify, hey, if you reduce your water footprint or start a coalition between the nexus of energy, water and food, all of a sudden you drive sustainable development at scale. Because we see many amazing opportunities, but there is a sliver of what needs to be done. So scale and replication of these holistic, comprehensive approaches is of critical importance. So being an envoy, a special ambassador dedicated to this cause, it is about promoting water, doing research to make people, institutions and leaders as well as communities on the ground understand it better, and then drive action. And action comes by innovation. And there are many examples, luckily, but the scale is lacking. So I'm in the sense also in this partnership with UpLink and driving an innovation agenda almost towards the summit next year to say, hey, of course it's challenging. We saw the video with all the disasters that are all linked to water as a root cause for conflict and migration, as part of climate impacts, as part of the impacts on our infrastructure and our economies. But there's the other side. If you invest in water, it trickles down across every sustainable development goal, and it is really a lever for the change we seek. And making this combination, public and private and finance, through innovation, is where we can scale. So I hope, with the conference, which will not be a talk shop, but an event on action, we can put a spotlight on water innovation action, also in the partnership with the Forum and UpLink.
That's great. I mean, you mentioned it a bit in your comments just now, Henk, but this aspect of the complexity of water and kind of intertwined in all of these different SDGs. Have you seen an evolution, and what else do you think we need to think about when it comes to addressing water in the context of these other topics as well?
And I think this is one of the challenges, and there are two ways about I've been hearing more. One is really understand that complexity better. So you actually demystify it. Because we easily, it's so complex. And then, we continue with our single-focused practices of investing in infrastructure or businesses that fail in the context of that complexity. So we find it too hard in the political domain, but also private sector and finance. And there's an example. If you invest in water and your health costs go down, those budgets are never linked. Those industries are not even linked. So how can you make a business case or a political argument to look at public and private sector? So complexity is hard. But at the same time, if you demystify it and you bring together coalitions, public and private, but also across sectors, you say, it's not so complex, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for partnership and an opportunity for innovation. That's one. The other is that people say, well, we should not make it too complex. For an investor, too much of complexity in the long term doesn't work. So again, in a partnership between public and private, we can mitigate the risks of early investments and reduce that risk. So innovators that perhaps don't like the complexity, but do like to spend funding or guarantee funding for innovation, can come into. So on one hand, demystify it but understand it, but the other, also don't make it too big. And I think the opportunity lies there that if we can identify water in agriculture and food and energy, in climate change and biodiversity and the economies, and we see the benefits of it, of investing in water on the short, medium and long term, it's going to be far easier. And the summit provides a platform, and the collaboration with the Forum and private sector partners also an opportunity to show, okay, it's complex, but there's a necessity and an urgency and a massive opportunity if we do.
I think that's an important aspect of us trying to simplify some of the messaging and some of the opportunities. And I think that's some of what we hope to come and see in terms of the Global Freshwater Challenge. Sundar, let me come back to you and talk. What types of innovations are you hoping that we can service as part of this challenge?
In fact, to take from what Henk was saying, so while it is still open at the moment, and I'm excited to see what is, the possibilities are enormous and endless, and it's very difficult to sort of say that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But in my head, we have 2-3 focus areas we talked about, we thought about. One was, of course, this whole decision making. See, there's a lot of data is necessary for us to understand what to do. And we talked about complexity, but complexity can be simple. You have the data to understand what it's all about and then create solutions. So I'm hoping for some innovations in the ability to look at the data, right? Some in the ability to look at, let's say, how there's a lot of wastewater. How do you, bring it back, back to the mainstream, or to look at fresh source of water. So broadly, it's still an open charter, but I'm hopeful of seeing something in these 3 areas, which I'm hopefully will excite us. And think of these as source code. They're small solutions today, but it's a small solution which tomorrow becomes a scale, and which is why people like Henk and the governments are so important in this process. That's how I think about it.
Okay, great.
I think can I chime in? Because I think the interesting aspect of it, the innovation lies in these many aspects. It's in the technology and in the industry and making these connections, but also in the soft parts of that, the capacity, working with schools and kids and universities and building capacity in communities, nature-based solutions, working with indigenous to really understand cultural aspects that really can drive innovation. I started a program in Chennai, India, Khulna, Bangladesh, and Semarang, Indonesia, called Water as Leverage, where it's really about, okay, it is about the technology, but also about the capacity. Can communities play a leading role in driving innovative technologies and nature-based solutions to mitigate water-related risk and create added value? And they can. We're implementing within a year a first project, community-led, but a combination of public and private partnerships. So I think that part, and then the other that you say is the institutional, that is data, but also decision-making, having access and understanding what that access really means. Right now with FAO, the UN Organization on Food Security, you could say, and agriculture, we're working to scale a program where satellite data informs individual farmers on when and how to water their land, what type of crops they can grow, at what rate and in what season. And we started in the MENA region, so the Middle East, Northern Africa, and we're now scaling this by investing in satellites and the data and the access to the data, as well as capacity programs for those farmers across the world. So here you see you start somewhere, the data gets improved from 100 by 100 meter, we now can go, I think, 10 by 10, so farmers can really understand what they need to do. And then at the world, that is amazing. You empower individuals, but at the scale of millions around the world.
That's brilliant. And I think before we came on air, Henk, you were talking about how important this international aspect is to your role, and you clearly just shared a couple examples. But are there other solutions or entrepreneurs that you've seen as you've been in this role since 2015, and that have had a major influence on the types of local challenges that a country, a city are facing? Anything else that comes to mind that are worth sharing here? Inspiration for us, if you will?
There's so many, and some are small. I work with a school in Chile in a river basin where we started to work. And Chile is this amazing country where the Andes and the ocean determine what is happening in between. So you have mining and big agriculture in the mountains, and then all the way down the river, smaller scale communities and farmers and industry that depend on fresh water. But if the mine pollutes or the farmer uses all the water, then there's nothing left. So we work data-driven in these riverine capacity. And then this school in this Elqui River Basin that takes on this water as an opportunity, building capacity among the little boys and girls, them understanding water better. So I think these type of partnerships where innovation comes with the technology on how mines can actually reduce the impacts on how they pollute water and not pollute it, reuse it, so they reduce their water footprint. How the farmers then have a combination with the miners and say, oh, we can be one of those reduction of a water footprint, but also reuse our water multiple times. So there's more left in the watershed where we use groundwater storage to really make sure that there's water resiliency in the basin, and then capacity with the communities to understand. And those are the ones that go to vote. So the decision makers are then in the right place to say, hey, this is actually a sustainable system.
Changing behaviors, influencing communities.
So I think it's these type of things, like I said in Chennai, where we're doing in a community with the school, actually harvesting the water with nature-based solutions, cleaning it with nature-based solutions, bringing it back to an aquifer that's polluted and overused, and then scaling it from that community to others. So I think it's those type of examples that we see. And perhaps the last one is Aqua Capital, which is a Mexican initiative, also driven by private sector, FEMSA, Coca-Cola in this case, and working together with private sectors like Heineken, really bringing in capital to spur innovation. Because you need money, you need the capacity, you need an environment to drive innovation, and then of course partnerships across all scales. So I think luckily I can be inspired on every continent in the many ways it's happening. The only thing I think, we need a spotlight on them so people can say, oh, this is how it works. We need an environment to replicate and scale. Yeah, and an environment of partnership, building trust against all the challenges our societies currently face, and say, oh, this is great stuff. Let's scale and replicate. So you see literally a rippling effect of those innovations across the world. And I think the challenge you're developing can be a major inspirational driver for that. So I look forward to see what comes out of this.
So we've heard some of that inspiration. Maybe a last question for you, Sundar, which is, okay, so we can source and we're going to find and provide the visibility and recognition for some of these types of innovations. What type of ecosystem do you think we need to put in place to see them flourish?
Thanks, John. That's a very important aspect. I mean, one, of course, is we need to get people to what I call come to the space and innovate in this space, right? And that opportunity exists. And some of the examples you mentioned are really heartwarming in that sense. So that is one area. We want more and more entrepreneurs looking at this space. Two is, I think, beyond that, you also would like to have a lot of investors and maybe venture capitalists looking at this space. Now, these are not large investments we're talking about right now, right? But this, unless you have many, and not every one of them is going to be successful. The few that are going to succeed are going to be great. But you need to have that many, and that's when you'll be able to take more and more examples and sort of inspire other people as well. So I think there is a need for the innovators, there's a need for venture capitalists, for governments, and maybe for, let's say, people like us and people like, somebody like where for UpLink to sort of brings them all together. It's a full entire ecosystem of people that we need to see. And I think it's a long journey. It's not a short 1 year, 2 year journey. We're talking about a long time, which is why I think we're talking at least a 5 year roadmap ahead. And I think we need to see that and see that move forward as we go along.
Well, this is interesting. We too often focus only on the projects. And there's a lot of funding around the world going to infrastructure or technology. But the softer one, you need $1 million to spend $1 billion wisely in that sense. And creating an environment where that $1 million can flourish, but where there's also consistency, continuity, and commitment, there's this longer term is critical importance. Here, we are here in New York, right? A city 10 years ago that was battered by Hurricane Sandy. President Obama set up this Hurricane Sandy rebuilding task force. And I had the honor to serve on the task force. And one of the things we did, after the repair and the first response, etc., is set up an innovation practice, a challenge. The Obama administration was famous for its challenges, driving innovation across public and private sector. And Rebuild by Design's projects are now being implemented. And they're exactly those innovative concepts here, nature-based, community-driven, public-private commitment on the long term, that we're spending billions now, thanks to investing in that capacity and in that safe space to really secure the future of the city of New York. And I think these examples, these challenges is what we have to bring to the world. So thanks so much for providing that opportunity.
And I think a big thank you to HCL and your leadership. As you said, you need the $1 million to be able to spur on the $1 billion, and your contributions, both supporting this ecosystem, but also the most impactful of those innovations is going to go a long way. So thank you both for being here to discuss this key issue with us. And I now want to actually give our audience a chance to learn more about the Global Freshwater Challenge by watching this short video.
There is an urgent need for innovation, tech-based and nature-based solutions in freshwater. HCL and UpLink are partnering over the next 5 years to find innovative solutions in freshwater and aquapreneurs. We call this the Aquapreneurs Innovation Initiative.
If you are watching and are working on or in the startup that is focused on improving access to water or protecting freshwater ecosystems, visit UpLink and now submit your solution to the Global Water Challenge. Now, as most people will know, a vital ingredient in the journey to a trend source the right capital to scale. At the same time, clear gap for startups, particularly in certain niches and sectors, to secure the capital they need to scale. Likewise, the nascent investments in nature, climate, ocean, water, and other SDGs is still developing. This is a crucial part of the SDG innovation ecosystem, which is why in Davos earlier this year, UpLink, the Innovative Funds for Our Future Challenge, campaign to source and select the most innovative funds investing in purpose-driven startups around the world. Funds that are investing in nature, energy, the other SDG topics. And today, we're announcing the winners of that challenge. So let's watch this video to find out a little bit more about each one of them. welcome back, and thank you for your patience as we've dealt with a small technical issue. We're really excited to have you here for the second half of our program that is looking to acknowledge and thank all of these innovative funds for being part of the process. It's exciting to see this shift in the business and investment community towards supporting startups that are having such a positive impact on the planet. We're now joined in the studio by one of the winners of this challenge, Jonas Skattam Svegaarden, who is the CEO of Catapult Ocean. We also have one of UpLink's exciting innovators who has actually received funding from Catapult Ocean, Kristen Kagetsu from Sati. So let me start with you, Jonas. Tell us more about Catapult Ocean and why you're focused on investing in companies that have a focus of life underwater.
Yeah, and thanks a lot, and thanks for being here, John, and great to see both of you again. So at Catapult, we're an investment firm, an impact investment firm. We truly believe that we need to back more founders that have a positive impact on our planet, most specifically our climate and the oceans. So we're investing into ocean health, the category of sati pads, transportation, energy, food, and frontier technologies. So we believe in mobilizing capital from fund investors, being foundations, wealth managers, family offices, pension funds, and the like, and allocate that towards innovative startups that start tackling the great challenges we're facing.
So I think for us what's been really important about this new challenge, and as you saw in the video, it's a different kind of challenge. We're looking to support and source funds. Now those funds are all trying to support entrepreneurs who are working on issues for people and planet. And it's really great to have you here with us, Kristen. And I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit more about Sati. What's the inspiration for it, and how has it evolved?
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here. So at Sati, we make biodegradable and compostable sanitary pads. And our main goal is, when we started, was to address the lack of access to menstrual products, but do so in a sustainable way. So in India, only 36% of women have access to menstrual products, and this causes a whole host of other issues. And so the way that we got involved with Catapult is that we were looking at ocean pollution as well, in the sense of trying to avoid ocean plastics. So sanitary pads and other menstrual products do end up in the water bodies in the ocean, on the street in India as well, and looking at that from the source, like trying to address pollution from the source instead of after it's already created is kind of our approach.
I think this is so interesting because it gives this example of how so much is interlinked between the different SDGs. And I wonder, Jonas, maybe you'd talk for a minute about, what was it about Sati and companies like hers that drive your kind of allocation of the portfolio, and how are you making those decisions of where to invest?
Firstly, at Catapult, we're looking at a large amount of companies and solutions out there every year, approximately a couple of thousand. We boil it down to at least 10 companies a year that receive investment from us and our fund. And we're continuously chasing the twofold or threefold impact, the environmental, the societal, and of course the financial impact, as we're a market return seeking fund. So both of the three start to tick the boxes. We're looking to see a great environmental impact on our oceans. Stopping the pollution on land is what we need to chase and see. Their societal approach is also a benefit when we made an investment. And of course, we need to see a great potential and a large addressable market. And lastly, we need to see teams that are willing and able to go to have what it takes to go all the way. And we saw that in Kristen and team.
Wonderful. I mean, I think this is an interesting aspect of kind of how things are evolving, and I wonder from your perspective, Kristen, you've now been doing this for a number of years. What have you seen a shift in the type of the investment community and their approach to supporting entrepreneurs like yourself?
Yes, definitely. I think when we started, the UN Sustainable Development Goals had just been launched as well. It was 2015. And even we were kind of exploring, we were trying to explain the impacts that we had, and once we saw the goals, I think that helped to explain that. But also on the flip side, I think a lot more investors became interested in the UN SDGs and how they could now measure the impact that was being created. And so we've seen definitely a shift and a lot more investment groups like Catapult that are focused on specific kind of SDGs or like SDG 14 in this case. And I think that has really provided a lot more support for companies like Sati.
Now, from our experience over the last few years, it's been clear that there is this gap, that there's a gap when startups are starting to get to scale. And I just thought it would be interesting to bring to life, you know, what did the type of investment that Catapult provided, what did that allow you to do in terms of your operations and the impact and the scale that you were able to provide?
Yeah, so we got the investment just in 2020, so right before COVID. So I think for us actually, in a lot of ways that helped us weather COVID, like all the challenges that we faced with everything shutting down and needing to be able to kind of maintain our operations and everything. So we were able to really weather COVID quite well that way. And now be in a good place in order to scale. So at this point now we have really kind of evaluated, you know, the current scenario of where we are and the needs that we have in order to scale, and I think we're in a great place because we're currently kind of on that path of
And you're still fundraising?
Just now, yes. So we just started, but we already have 30% of our
Okay, fantastic.
funds.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I would almost put the flip side as well. I mean, there's, and you know, our experience over the last months of getting to know funds like yourself, Jonas, has been that a lot of the needs that entrepreneurs have, a lot of emerging funds as well. And I wonder if you'd talk about, you know, what has it been like for you as you weathered the COVID pandemic and have begun to emerge? How have you looked to grow your impact and think about the needs that Catapult Ocean has?
Actually, we're investing globally. So actually for us, COVID worked out quite well because then we were able to invest into ventures being located all across the world. Normally, before COVID, we got our ventures as Kristin all the way to, we got them and took them to Norway for our 3-month accelerator program. Now they were able to participate in our program at their location, and that gave us a better reach on ventures and our deal flow. As for the fundraising part of things, people were more accessible, so that's great actually. I think we saw the need to have a great network and to grow that. That was the hard part during COVID, and I think also that was what our ventures benefited from when attending our accelerator program. One thing is about retaining your network, and another. And the hard part is about growing that in a digital way.
That's excellent. Listen, the audience that UpLink is looking to attract, and hopefully that are with us today live, are young people, change makers, potential entrepreneurs themselves, people that are looking to invest and support the ecosystem. And I wonder what advice, and maybe for both of you, you would have for entrepreneurs out there when you're thinking about any mistakes that you might have made or you've observed. And also about as they look to attract investment for their ideas. Maybe let's start with Kristin on your side.
Yes, I think one of the things that has been really good for us is looking at the problem and the solution from a kind of systems level perspective. So the kind of impact that we want to create and even the impact that we've created till date is all around how our model is built. So we are able to address multiple UN SDGs and make sure we have impacts with additional income to farmers, employing an all-women staff, distributing pads to women who don't have access, and eliminating plastic waste. And I think all of these kind of system level impacts are what make our business model unique and more interesting maybe to investors.
So inspiring others to tackle those type of systemic challenges.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonas? What would you offer as some advice to this group?
I would advise founders to think collectively and to partner with others, not solve and tackle the challenges by themselves. So we're offering a lot of partnerships and encouraging our founders to work together, work with others, and utilize all the help that's out there, actually. It's a lot of incubators, accelerators, partnership opportunities in the world that could be very, very valuable if you're using it the right way.
Okay, 2 last questions for both of you. First one, in the previous segment, you saw we launched the Aquapreneur Global Freshwater Challenge. We had a representative from government and from the private sector on with me. And I wonder, what do you think that you need from those sectors and investors, perhaps capital providers, for both startups and funds to flourish? I don't know. Would you like to start, Jonas? Or
yeah, I can start. Firstly, the government, I think they're doing a great job, actually. Many of the heads of state, and what we've been waiting for is a lot of regulation to happen to drive the markets in the right way. So I wouldn't say that they're off the hook, but still they're doing some great impact. I would say the private markets and the private investors are still lagging behind. I can speak for especially the ocean-focused investment strategies and funds. But also, I think for us as fund managers and I would say financial products, we need to do our job as well and take our responsibility. So we need to create good investment strategies, investment teams, investment themes, to allow more capital to flow into ventures as Kristen's and others. So it's also on us.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. One is definitely the mindset. So I think the mindset sometimes becomes a little bit short-sighted in terms of what we want to achieve today, or like looking at things as, oh, I have, some target to achieve and I need to achieve that this year. Let's, work to get those numbers. But at the same time, looking at what are the things that we're building for the long term. I think that is definitely something, we can't do alone. As Jonas said, I think that's something we do need partners and support for. And seeing that maybe you save a little bit of money today, but in the long term you're going to spend quite a lot more trying to reverse effects, negative effects, and that's even why we started Sati the way we did. So I think that's one thing, and then the other is looking at kind of support for scale. So in terms of partnerships, I think we're looking at, we have to run Sati operations day to day, but I think one of the things that we can use some support with is partnerships that can help us scale faster. So
fantastic. Well, listen, last question for both of you. The mission of UpLink is to build bridges across the innovation ecosystem. And I wanted to just get a little bit of a future look. What is it that you think both of your organizations need and would love to see as support from UpLink in order to thrive? Let's come back to Kristen to start, and you can close, Jonas.
Yes. So we've been really excited to join the UpLink community this year and have an opportunity like this to be able to speak on a global stage. And at the same time, I think what we're looking forward to with UpLink is, having that global platform. It seems like a great way to be able to connect more readily with other partners around the world. So we're really looking forward to that.
Great. And Jonas?
Yeah, I have high expectations as always. But you've done great with spotlighting innovators and now once again spotlighting innovative funds, because it's a whole value chain here. We need funds like us and others to be successful. whereas we need you to be successful. So I think like the platform we're onboarding now allows us to open new doors, new engagements, and collaborations. So I would like more action. I would like even more engagement across funds and across corporates, investors, asset owners, as well as innovators, as we all need you guys to make it at the end.
Yes.
Well, listen, thank you both for joining me here today. And I want to thank you all, no matter where you are around the world. UpLink is an open innovation platform, and it's open for anyone, anywhere. No matter what you're focused on. Are you interested in helping these entrepreneurs and these funds? Are you interested in working for them? But we're always open. We're excited for you to see how you can get involved with UpLink as we continue to grow and make a global impact. So do make sure you come and visit us at uplink.weform.org and sign up to learn more about innovators like Kristen and investors like Jonas, and to see how you could support them. So once again, thank you for being with us, and we hope to see you soon.